All right, welcome back. We're now in Unit 10-2. So this is our second day of factoring, and this time we're going to be factoring what we call trinomials. Now, a trinomial is just something that has three terms. When we factor trinomials, we're going to turn them back into two binomials. So if you'll notice here, I've got binomials, which means I just have two terms. Here's my x. Remember, a plus or minus divides our terms. So there's one term, there's two terms, multiplied to another binomial. Okay, so we're always, on today's lesson, this is what our answer was going to look like. But we're going to warm up again, reviewing a few things that we did before Christmas by actually multiplying these two binomials together. So remember, if there's not an add or subtract in between these two polynomials right here, it means that you multiply or that you distribute. Now, this is a little different from yesterday. Yesterday, when we distributed, we just had one term or a monomial that we distributed to everything inside of our parentheses. This time, though, when you have two terms, remember you have to do 4 multiplications. We kind of talked about it, and they had an acronym called the FOIL method. You're going to multiply the first together. I just remember it as this first term has to multiply with both terms. Okay, so the first multiply together, they call this the outside terms, that second distribution. Then you're going to distribute 1 to everything. So 1 times x, that's what they call the inside terms. And then 1 times 5, there's your last terms right there. Okay, so you're going to do 4 multiplications. So let's go ahead and do this. So we've got our x times x, which gives us our x squared. Again, we just add our powers. They're both 1, so it adds to 2. Okay, x times 5. Usually we write the 5 first, but we just write it as 5 times x. Then notice right here, when we distribute our 1 times x, we have 1x right there. And then 1 times 5 will give you a plus 5. So we did 4 multiplications. But notice right here with our terms right here, we actually have some like terms. We can add our x's together. We've got 5 x's and somebody gives us another x. So we can actually combine those into 6x right there. There's no other x squared, so that'll just stay x squared. There's no other constant, so that just stays 5. So it used to be that our answer right here was a trinomial. Notice 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about today, is factoring our trinomials. So on today's lesson, we're going to start with this, which used to be the answer, and we're going to work backwards to get back to what we started with. Okay, let's do a few more of these. We're going to just do these in the first video. We're going to do the warm-up questions in the first video, and then we'll show you how to actually work backwards. But again, we've got to do 4 multiplications. So let's go ahead and do this. M times m gives me my m squared. M times 6 gives me my 6m. Then we're going to distribute our negative 4 times m. So I've got a negative 4m. And negative 4 times positive 6 gives me a negative 24. Okay, go ahead and combine those middle terms right there, our like terms. It's always going to be your outside and your inside terms kind of combined right there. So those terms, 6m minus 4m is going to be a 2m. And then that minus 24 stays. And that is our final answer there. All right, last warm up here. We have k's this time. We've got a k times k. That'll give us our k squared. K times 3. It's a 3k. Oh, k times negative 3. Whoops, I missed that. You guys don't do that. All right, so k times negative 3 gives me a negative 3k. Now we have a negative 7 times k. That's another negative 7k. And then negative 7 times negative 3. Remember, a negative multiplied to a negative gives you a positive. And then 7 times 3 is that 21. All right, when we go to combine our like terms here, if you've got negative 3k and somebody takes away 7 more, subtracts 7 more, you're already in the negative, you're even more in the negative, you're going to have a negative 10k right there. So this is going to start with that k squared still going to be there, the 21's still going to be there. It was just your outside and inside terms here that combined to give you that middle term. All right. All right, now there's some patterns here. We're going to talk about these patterns right here before we break to the new video. But basically this time your trinomial is always going to start off there. Again, this is going to be your problem. What was the answer is going to be your problem, and you want to turn it into what used to be the problem is now going to be the answer is going to be the problem. Okay, so they're always going to be in this form. Notice there's a trinomial. Notice your first term is a squared. It could be x squared, it could be m squared, it could be k squared, but it will always be something squared right there. Now this b represents a number. Okay, so it could be 6, or it could be 2, or it could be -10. There will be some number of x's. Okay, these are or m's or k's right here. And then the c also represents a number. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 24, maybe it's 21. So if it looks like this, what you're going to do is you're going to try to find two values. Now notice these are going to be the two values at the end right here. Okay, so these two values right here, two values right here. It's kind of easy to see that the first terms are just going to be k's right here, or the first terms are going to be m's, or the first terms are going to be x's. But the harder thing to do is to find those two numbers. Now, we need to find two integers. So these two numbers are two numbers that they multiply to give you this last number. Notice the last times the last, this 5 right here, it was just they multiply to give you this c term. Multiply to give you c. Okay, so I'm going to write parentheses around the c, but here's where that c comes from. So you're trying to find the two numbers that multiply to that last number right there. But notice that these two numbers right here, this -4 and 6, this 1 and this 5, notice they all add to give you these middle coefficients, -3 and 7. They add to give you this b right there. Add to b right there. Okay, so if you can do that, if you can find the two numbers that multiply to c and add to b, this lesson is going to be super easy for you. And we'll show you a few of those next examples in our next video.